Evolution in Divine Love is an invitation to reimagine everything from the place where it all begins and where it all returns. Love.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Evolution in Divine Love podcast. Today we'll be discussing Sri Radha's tangible form. It is part of the first chapter of Love's Odyssey. So thank you for coming again, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Inviting us into this conversation.
Click on just technical detail. The chapter is Sri Radha, Love's tangible form.
Yes.
Technical detail. It's fine.
Thank you for that. So I'd like to kick off this discussion with the unique and an amazing concept and reality that God is not just one, but two, and sometimes a community. And as far as Sri Radha goes, it's described that they are the same soul, assuming two bodies. So this is such a beautiful image to hold, and how Krishna is fully present within Sri Radha's heart, and Sri Radha is fully present within Krishna's heart. And again, this speaks to me about how things are not in a linear duality, how one thing is found within the other, and that's how the Supreme Absolute is able to harmonize all paradox, because one thing is found within the other. So what you invoke the image of fire and heat, how the one is part of the other. You cannot separate fire from heat from its fire and fire from heat. It's one and the same thing. So I'm wondering if you can, does anything come to mind when you hear that? Is anything evoked right now in this moment for you?
Well, a lot, but the first thing is, again, to clarify that it's not me who comes with the idea of fire and heat. That's Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I don't want to plunder the original revelation. I'm merely quoting the verse, which I have it here. Say, Radha is the full power, and Krishna the possessor of that power. The two are non-different, as scriptures attest. They are indeed the same, like musk and its scent, or fire and its heat. Yet they appear as two for the sake of relishing lila, divine play. So, yes, you mentioned, like Tira says, it's paradoxical because, again, we tend to think not only God is only one, but God is many times only a man, God is only he, or God is only whatever, my form and my preferred revelation or manifestation. So it really invites us to break new ground, to keep reality as it is inside of us. Now, the other day I was having yesterday a conversation with a friend, and he was asking, like, he was feeling this weight of the overtly male predominance in how we tend to conceive God, and how that can translate as very many times chauvinistic, patriarchal, toxic masculinity forms in religious institutions, in society, in how we view the world, in how we treat the feminine, not only in terms of biologically female entities, but our own feminine side. So we were talking about how actually our tradition is very feminine, and how even Krishna, the supreme male, if you want to use that term, he's so feminine in so many ways, without talking about Radha's for a moment, and he's so vulnerable and this and that. But many times we do not represent all that when we talked about God. So yeah, I think it's very, especially in the times we are living nowadays, it's so necessary to redeem and reclaim the feminine, in the sacred feminine, in every way, in our connection to the earth, to the world, which is feminine, and understand that God is a balancing of polarities, right? It's the feminine and the male perfectly integrated, and it's not the feminine and the male that we think that is feminine and masculine. So God is feminine, God is male, God is feminine and male, but beyond our ideas of feminine and male, and he's beyond any idea of feminine and female. So again, it's way beyond what we can think, and it's important to remain in that place of probably being overwhelmed, like this integration. I'm thinking about Veda Vid, right? One and different, Radha and Krishna, one different at the same time, constant integration of polarities, harmonizing of complexity, paradoxical thinking that is required to approach such a reality, right? So I know it's complicated. I know it's easier to think, no, stop thinking all that stuff. Tell me who is God. Give me one name, one form. Okay, Jesus. Let's go for it. Let's not make it more complicated. But then you have the Trinity, and that's, again, you have three. So, and Jesus is one of the three. So as simplistic as you want to make it, it always ends up being more complex at one point, and that complexity is begging to be integrated in our own approach to the divine. We don't want to be simplistic in how we conceive of God. We don't want to be how to say complex for the sake of complexity either. We just want to acknowledge that approaching the divine, the sweet absolute, is it's a big thing. So we should be careful not to being simplistic either, right? That's why I like to say simplicity is not the same as being simplistic. To be simple is to have integrated complexity proper and digested that, and that's simple, right? So that's what's coming as a kick.
That's so beautiful. And I love the complexity is not something that needs to be overwhelming at the same time. It's just so full and relishable. But one thing that you mentioned in your conversation with your friend, and I have it in big letters on my notes here, is it does seem that in this moment in time, there is a real movement towards, in consciousness, of uniting our own masculine and feminine sides within ourselves. That there's a lot of talk about this right now. That our feministic, we all have the feminine and masculine within us, and how there's really seems to be a movement even of unifying these two aspects of ourselves. And I couldn't help but think that this will serve a larger purpose also, to be able to reconsider divine as feminine also, and allow that proper orientation, and to open up the space and the room and the heart for the divine feminine to be actually to take her place in the worship of God, and to really see the role that Sri Radha plays, and of course how then that opens the manifestation of Mahaprabhu. But that's another topic. But it does seem to be a strong correlation right now in our culture, that to unite the masculine and feminine sides of our own selves. So I'm wondering if you also see how that emphasis will provide an opportunity for these conversations of the divine as feminine to come into play.
I hope so. And yeah, I acknowledge there is much more conversation about reclaiming, redeeming the feminine in different ways. Of course, in the context of that, sometimes we end up on the other side of the spectrum with expressions of toxic reclaiming of the feminine, which ends up being another form of toxic masculinity, so to say. And also, I will say that there is some intuitive, even sometimes, in some cases, collectively unconscious, intuitive need for bringing the feminine and the integration of polarities. Because, to be honest, as much as some of these themes and necessities are becoming more clear, there's also still lots of polarization and dualism, and so many times as a response to that extremity, these other things come like a natural, again, unconscious cry for balance, like hey guys, we're going too much to this extreme, whether it is toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, again, two sides of the same coin. We are not properly balancing these two polarities, no, yin yang, Radha Krishna, you call it however you like, but we're talking about these principles of how reality operates. And those three Chaitanya is another topic. He came into my conversation with my friend because we were thinking about, because still the question will be, okay, but why Sri Chaitanya is still a man, right? One could say still there is the male predominance. And again, we can speak about Gadadhar Pandit and its indirect role, but I'm not going there now. That may be too much for this conversation. But I would think, okay, Sri Chaitanya is the male side of God, but fully voluntarily entering into the heart of the goddess, into the heart of the feminine. So that's very necessary to witness for our unresolved male side to heal, and witnessing, wow, the supreme male is voluntarily inaugurating this whole project we call Gaur Lila to just experience to the highest possible degree at every moment what it means to fully embrace the feminine, the side of the goddess, and he continues to do so till today. So I think it's a very, though it's male on one level, again, it's male in a certain way that in one sense attempts to heal and redeem and reclaim and integrate all this loss of nuance and balance between female and masculine energies. So yeah, I will say that, and I hope so, that all these expressions of the divine, not only in our tradition, because this is not exclusive to Gaudiya Vaishnavism, can become more normalized, and because they are more necessary than ever to because many times it starts with that, with our conception of the divine that kind of dies, like colors how we think of everything else. So if our notion of God is authoritarian, chauvinistic, very angry, something that is intimidating, we just see ourselves and the world and everything else according to that. So if we recalibrate and realize, oh no, God is God and goddess, he and she and beyond, community, a divine couple, a trinity, I mean, and so many other things, that opens up the field to many other possibilities, not only in how we think of God, but in how we think of everything else as an extension of how we think of the original source. So yeah, and as complex as that may sound, I will say it's way more, how to say, it's justifying to enter into that complexity. It's very dignifying. It has a very deep purpose, and we can see the results of being too simplistic, and how that plays out in the world, basically. Yeah.
Wow, that was really helpful for me to hear what you shared about Mahaprabhu, because it did occur to me in the past that Gaur Leela somehow seems quite masculine in a way that a lot of the characters, a lot of the people in the Leela are men. So it did occur to me before, like, oh yeah, it seems quite masculine, but what you shared makes so much sense. It's like the integration of feminine, even though they are in the male bodies. That's so beautiful. And also, like the point where you were making a point that it's not, we don't want to go to the extremes of like, turning this into toxic femininity with like, just this hard push on like, now everything has to be feminine, not really fully understanding what it means, in the sense like, what are the feminine qualities within ourselves and what's masculine. So I was wondering, like, would you suggest that we need to, or like, it's helpful for each one of us to understand the feminine and masculine within ourselves so we integrate them properly, or we just like, begin with whatever we can see? Like, now I can understand vulnerability is a feminine quality, so I start there and then just go with the flow? Or do I have to, okay, now let me like, take a course and understand like what's feminine and masculine, like that? So what would you say?
It depends. One of my favorite answers. It depends. Because every case is unique, right? Some people need to work more on their masculine side or the feminine side. Some people keep carrying daddy wounds, mommy wounds, and that affects how they relate to masculine, feminine principles, and how they project that whole broken bits into even God. So again, each case comes with their own unique combination of stuff. So it takes for a very personalized, radically personal approach. But I would say that, yeah, in one way or another, as I mentioned a minute ago, how we conceive the divine, the source affects everything else. Since we, God, the world, everything is interrelated. Also, how we see the world affects how we see God and ourselves, and how we see ourselves affect how we see God and the world. So it's not just how we see God affects everything else. It's all inter-affected, so to say. So if I'm in my own relationship, so to say, to my own self, I have a disbalance of feminine, masculine energy, I may need to address that in whatever form and degree. So whatever I'm perceiving outside of myself is not a projection of my unresolved equation, feminine, masculine equation. So, and many times that's the place to begin for many of us. Many times it's not even, okay, try to heal your stuff with God. Sometimes it's begin at home with yourself. Again, we are interrelated, so we cannot fully separate one thing from the other. But so, yeah, I'm totally in favor of each one exploring, hopefully with sincerity, proper guidance, what may be required at any given stage of their journey, and have to keep these two polarities complementing each other, nourishing each other, not one at the cost of each other. And that's a constant discipline of balance, right? It's not just, okay, I did it once, that's it. The scale remains there forever, but it's a daily introspection, a daily exercise. And yet, for some, it may begin by becoming familiar about, oh, what's the feminine and the masculine, right? What are the feminine and the qualities that characterize the feminine side and the qualities that characterize the masculine side? And again, learning to, I don't know, in our tradition, we hear about Radha and Krishna, the divine God and goddess, learning to even witness their interaction and how they represent these principles and how each of them show a perfect balance of them. Or even if you want to talk about Sri Chaitanya, as you were seeing, and I'm glad that you were like, you had an aha moment regarding the necessity of Gaur Lila as showing mostly men being properly feminine, let's put it that way, no? Because again, the whole thing revolves around Sri Chaitanya's experience of Radha, and everyone else is showing tadatmya of full empathy with what he's feeling. So he's feeling a deep embrace of the feminine, and everyone else by empathy are going in the same direction. So no wonder, yeah, that's the mood of Gaur Lila, and that's for us the main Lila in the age of Kali Yuga, right? Which and among other things, is characterized by a disbalance of these principles and toxic femininity, toxic masculinity. So somehow we could see, okay, Gaur Lila is coming to to remind us all how to express all the things, no, in the proper way. Those are some thoughts, basically.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Something that stood out to me is that sincerity will take us forward. We just like go with the flow, and it is a deeply personal journey, not like, this is what you have to do to understand feminine and masculine qualities and all that. So yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. But yeah, specifically going back to the figure of Sri Radha, I think in most of our Gaudiya Vaishnava community, we need to connect with all that she represents, but in a deep, profound way, not just like in a very cheap theoretical way. Okay, let's speak about Radha and let's go to the most intimate leelas. That's the real thing, not Krishna but Radha, and we end up being still very, in many cases, not always, but very mature, very exclusivistic, very dualistic, very toxically feminine or masculine sometimes when speaking of Radha. So how to bring into the picture the goddess and all that she represents, and the feminine in Krishna, and how all that plays out in Sri Chaitanya, how to learn what's the teaching for us from all of them, so to say, in relationship to this. And so yeah, I personally think that many times we speak about Krishna, 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 but many times we may need to bring Radha a little bit more often to balance the equation, right? Not just naming her. It may begin with naming her. It may begin with just not saying God so many times and saying the goddess at times, or to remind ourselves that it's not just this way. Or if even we want to talk about Krishna, to remind ourselves who is Krishna actually, and not to have our own unresolved, broken, disjointed, traumatized projection of who God is as a supreme male or something, and bringing into the picture all the vulnerability, fragility, femininity that Krishna himself shows in every single step of what we know about him, so to say, right? So
yeah, you were saying like how, yeah, Radha and Krishna, they're inseparable. And yeah, you were quoting that from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that it's compared to like fire and heat. So I was thinking, like, in that sense, then wherever God is, love is also there. So God is everywhere means like love is also everywhere.
yeah,
But we somehow fail to see it.
Yeah, love is everywhere, but we are not there. Something like that. So I like to say, no? God is omnipresent. We are omni-absent. God is omnipresent, and love is omnipresent because God is love. But still, that love that constitutes God's presence is extending to us as a gift. But that doesn't mean that we have received it. No. One thing is someone wants to give you a gift. Another thing is you extend your hand to receive the gift, because it has to be voluntary. Love is voluntary. So you can only participate in that by your own volition and decision. So it can be everywhere, but I can be unwilling to acknowledge that presence, that gift, and live in denial. And we have done pretty well about in that sense, pretty bad actually. So that shows again our darkest potential, right? How we can live in absence or forgetfulness or ignorance or blindness, whatever analogy you want to use of the omnipresence of God and love of Radha, and how it's so important to, as Srila Siddhar Maharaj will say, everything has already been given to you. The only thing that you have to do is to extend your hand to accept the gift. That's your part of the equation. Everything else is taken care of. You just extend the hand and receive the gift, because nobody else can do that for you. Again, someone wants to give you a gift, but it's up to me to receive it or not. So that's what we are trying to do. That's sadhana, right? Keeping the hand extended, learning to trust the giver of the gift, and And the gift is so enormous that it's not just I extend my hand once and that's it, but remaining in this constant receiving posture, so to say. Again, it's not only about giving, serving, but also about receiving. Probably first I need to begin with receiving the gift that is knocking on my door from time immemorial, and only then I can think about giving back something substantial to anyone. So yeah, it's always reciprocal. Yeah.
And that
That's
speaks.
why we have, that's why we have Radha and Krishna. It's always reciprocal. No, it has to be a back and forth, no, in love. God turning to for the purpose of loving reciprocity. Sorry, Bhaktiras.
It's okay. It does speak to God as a byproduct of love, as you referred to him, and I was thinking also how that, because he says in the Gita how he reciprocates with how we approach him. So that's love. It's him reciprocating as a byproduct of love. So I was thinking too, when you were speaking about how our darkest potential and our potential of light, and it does seem that love as the impetus of everything, that it's not just God that's carved by love, it's not just Krishna, but us as well. And how we see love, what we think about love, how we conceive love, is we form ourselves around that. And if we have a poor experience and conception of what love is, then we're going to be formed in a different way, and everything is going to reflect around that. And also about bringing the feminine and the masculine together within the self, that there's a place for self-compassion. And I think that's where our own feminism begins. Love of the self in context of bhakti is the self-compassion is how we can bridge those two parts of ourselves.
Yeah, and again, accepting that you're already loved by the divine, that's a very huge act of vulnerability, which is a huge invocation of feminine energy, like to accept I'm absolutely accepted and loved despite everything and anything. That's courageous, vulnerable, feminine. So yeah, that's very ideal, an ideal kickstart. And I agree with you what you say, Bhaktirasa, that if we don't have not only a proper conception, but many times a proper experience of love, it's difficult for us even to trust love. And it's not just given about new definitions, because sometimes first comes experience. Because if I have been traumatized my whole life and I have no single experience of love, I can come with you with all fancy definitions of love, and you're like, it doesn't touch me, because I don't know anything but this other thing, which has nothing to do with your fancy definition. Give me an experience of unconditional love, and then we talk about definitions. So many times we have to be careful with getting trapped into theological sophistication and definition and concepts, which have their place and are important, but in one sense, experiential stuff is what ultimately changes, transforms us, and allows us to allow another possibility, another hope. So if someone cannot conceive the possibility of unconditional love because they have no point of reference in this life, you just give them a good shot of unconditional love yourself. You embody that for that person, and then it becomes undeniable for them. And nobody will care for definitions at that point. They will be all swimming in the experience, relishing the experience. And then we can bring definitions to make sense of the experience, but experience is foundational. So yeah, somehow or other, at the end of the day, despite all this talking we are doing about in this podcast and in my book about unconditional love, it's all about somehow or other getting to have that experience in one way or another. And if I haven't had that so far, at least not being cynical enough to the point of closing myself to that possibility just because I haven't had it so far. But still, there's something, if I pay close attention, there's something in me that says I still need that. So, and that's there. So, yeah. Anyhow, some thoughts. Thank you so much for joining, you too, and everyone who is watching, and looking forward to our next episode.
Today, Swetadweep and I welcome an elder, a sister, a profound practitioner, Manjuali Devi Dasi, to the conversation, and she's joining us today at the culmination of this chapter on the evolution of love. So we've during this journey of this chapter, we've talked about the definition of love and how love is the ultimate ethic, and how love is always on the move and growing, and it's an unceasing goal, and it's an insatiable appetite with infinite renewal. And now this discussion culminates at the beginning, at the source, with Sri Radha. So I'm very happy to be able to share this conversation with you, Manjuali. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Try to be of some service and share. Yes.
All right. So in the beginning of this chapter, Swami Padmanabha mentions and brings out the important aspect that Sri Radha as love is part of God's heart, how they are one and the same and inseparable, how God is not just one. And, you know, in some traditions, that's a big thing to just understand that God is one person, that he is a person. Now we understand that God is two persons, and actually God is a community. So to understand that God is two persons, I wonder if you have some reflection on that and how we would be able to understand that in a particular way.
God is two persons. Well, we have God as Purusha and Radha as Prakriti, and they come together as in union because their hearts are woven together by their intense desire and longing, and dance together. They, from my understanding, Radharani is our guru. She is our inspiration, and she is our gateway to Krishna. And so as two, when they come together, they have a soul that is woven, or the fabric of their being is united, but they have different individuality that helps to because the distinction, in order for them to move together, they have their individuality, but they have as a whole a divine connection, which is a union of the divine male and the divine feminine. That's how I understand it, but maybe Swetadweep Radhika can add something to that.
Thank you, Manjuali. I was just thinking, remembering this line that, you know, how God, like Sri Krishna and Sri Radha are like one soul, separated like for eternity to enjoy their divine pastimes. So they are, like you were saying, you know, like their hearts are bound together. And in a way, like, you know, you can't separate them. I mean, I think Maharaj also mentions in this section, I can't remember, how it's like the relationship is like fire and heat.
Mm.
Like where there is fire, there is heat, you know,
Yes.
like that. But yeah, I mean, this section one of the main highlights in the beginning was that, yeah, God is like, we always refer to God as He. And now here it is he, she, them.
The whole aspect, as we were saying, of the connection of Radha and Krishna as one soul, and then that separateness as well. And that separateness is so important for the Leela to actually develop, that lolium, that longing, that absolute adoration and spontaneity of their relationship, and their deep exchange between each other is a lesson to us as bhaktas, and as Radharani is teaching us how to love Krishna. And Krishna is teaching us in the way he responds to Radha's love, of how we can serve Radha in supporting that drama, that Leela. And I think Maharaj, he speaks about, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada all speak about how Radha is an archetypal guru for us, in the sense of not a Diksha guru, but a teacher of relationship, a practitioner of love, and an embodiment of love. And that is, Maharaj speaks about her embodiment, her wisdom, and her love. And it's not just love, but actually it's grounded in wisdom, like Sophia. He mentions Sophia, doesn't he? And so she encompasses the goddess as the divine feminine, who is connected eternally to the divine masculine, but she doesn't lose her feminine quality in the union. Yeah.
I think one thing that's kind of fascinating is to think that she doesn't just represent love. She doesn't just a goddess of love, a goddess who represents something, but she is love itself. She is the very form of love. And in that way, going back to the Trinity, I was thinking about this the other day, that she is always present. It's not just us and God, the relationship like that, but that she herself, as love, is present within that relationship. And she is what we are embedded in. And like you mentioned earlier, how it's through her that we have a relationship with God, because she is that love. And she is the creator, actually, of the person that we have come to know, at least in a limited form, as Krishna. She is the sculptress of his own existence, his own heart. So Maharaj mentions in this chapter that God is a byproduct of love. So he is crafted by her love, by her. And I think that it also extends to us as well, that we are crafted by her love, according to our desires, according to who we are, according to our potential, that it is a co-creative type of partnership, but she is our sculptress as well, creating our form of love for the divine's enjoyment.
Creator of the creator.
Yes, she is the creator of the creator. And Krishna admits this himself. also by referring to her as his guru, saying that he is her student, that he is her puppet, and he's completely smitten. And I love the story of when the gopis were looking for Krishna after he disappeared in the rasa dance. And they're in the forest looking for Krishna, and Krishna thought, I'm going to play this trick on them. And he assumed the form of Vishnu, a very particular form, a very godlike form. And the gopis, when they came to him, all they wanted to know was, have you seen Krishna? And he was like, what's with this? You know, here I am, I'm God. You can ask whatever you want. Well, that's what we want. We want to know where Krishna is. Oh, yeah, I think he went that way. But then when Sri Radha came, he could not hold his godlike form. He just could not do it. He wanted to, but his limbs were coming inside himself. She was crafting him in that very moment, and he knew he was done for. That she possessed him. I love that pastime. She is the literal carver of God.
Wow, that is beautiful. I mean, yeah, I love that story too. And I was thinking also what Manjuali was saying earlier about how the separateness is so important. Also, because of the separateness, in one sense, the evolution is possible.
Yeah.
You know, because like her like love that's evolving, which is making like God's evolution possible and our evolution. So yeah, that's kind of the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Really good point. And also, she's known as the birthplace of divine love.
Mm.
All divine love is found within her, and that's I think that's quite unique amongst different traditions.
Mm.
It's beautiful. And another quality of her love is that again speaks to her as being the source of divine love, is that it's self-manifesting. Her love self-manifests. There's no cause. There's no cause to her love. It manifests in its own accord. And to me, that kind of speaks to how it ties in with unconditional love.
Mhm.
Because if it's self-manifesting, there's no conditions that bring it into being. It already is. Do you have any any anything to speak about the unconditional nature of love?
The unconditional nature of love is just she's present with no ownership. She's present as totally in service. I remember Srila Prabhupada used to tell us that when we did service, he used to say, attention to detail, like Srimati Radharani. So attention to detail meant that she was always one step ahead, looking how to please Krishna. She was always one step ahead. How can I, surprise him? How can I, bring him something that will make him smile? How can I? So the unconditional, it means that it's spontaneous and that it flows through her. But because of her very essence is the embodiment of his love. and therefore she is so on on point, so to speak, is that she's always absorbed in his pleasure and in bringing him pleasure. And that's why she criticizes the eyelashes for closing for even a nanosecond, because her vision is disturbed. There's something that comes in the way of her absolute absorption in
And
the
her
vision
tears
of,
too.
and her tears. She complains about the tears. Why are there tears? Yes. And I just, so unconditional means without conditions, as Maharaj says in the book. And without conditions means that she is the embodiment of that bubbling up and presence that actually allows the Leela to unfold and to go forward and to be ever fresh. Because it's not like we did the drama and it's all over and we're going to go do the play the second night in a row. Everything is spontaneous. Everything is in the moment, and everything is crafted in such a way with intention and purity of heart and sincerity that it pleases Krishna. He's amazed that her love is always is new and fresh. It's not something old and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, there's this beautiful quote. Can I share it with you? This
Please.
beautiful quote that is just so, and it's talking about our tradition, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It says the Gaudiya Vaishnavas know only Radharani. They are concerned only with her and her deities, her duties, her necessities. They are ready to serve her in all respects and cannot contemplate any service without her. That is the highest achievement of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. That is the special feature of Mahaprabhu's party and was announced by Raghunath Das Goswami. So that is Srila Sridhar Maharaj just, saying in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, the paramount presence of Radharani is the embodiment of divinity as female, but also as our guru. Our guru in the sense that she is not the Diksha Guru, and Prabhupada have a quote from Prabhupada saying, oh, she's not the Diksha Guru, but she is our guide. And she is pointing the way, and she is the embodiment of unconditional, as you said, loving service. And the counterbalance with the divine male is this beautiful embodiment of love that's ever evolving.
Yes, that's beautiful. I was thinking how for jivas, we are often not like starting with worshipping Sri Radha, even like in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. We are often like focused on Krishna alone, like in the beginning stages. And Radha is rarely ever mentioned, or not mentioned so much, but not so much the focus as much as Krishna is. But to me, it seems like even then, when we are focusing just on Krishna, Sri Radha is already there. Like she's like, as soon as we even think of approaching Krishna, she's just right there. So in that sense also, it is unconditional, that she's not saying, oh, you haven't called me, you haven't asked for my guidance, but her presence is there, her guidance is there, which to me seems unconditional. already, which is actually the nature of love, right? I mean, I also think like it's kind of silly when we categorize conditional love, unconditional love, you know? I mean, to me, I think like, okay, isn't love all love, love, you know? Like, why does it have to be categorized? But it's similar to like material and spiritual, right? Like we categorize that, but like I think Srila Prabhupada also mentions in a few places in his purport there, ultimately there is nothing material, it's all spiritual. So similar to that, like I think there is nothing like called conditional love. It's really love, you know, which is personified in Sri Radha.
Actually, I have a quote from Prabhupada emphasizes that Srimati Radhi is the topmost devotee and the embodiment of divine love of Krishna, making her a crucial figure on the path of devotional service. That's a quote from Srila Prabhupada. Whilst not the traditional guru in the sense of Diksha guru, she is considered the internal energy, Chit Shakti, of Krishna and the perfect example of how to serve him, acting as an intermediary who can guide devotees towards Krishna's mercy. So again, we're seeing that both Srila Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, the Gaudiya Acharyas highlight Radha's position in relationship with Krishna and how she is our teacher. Yeah.
This is known as the Bhakti movement. So I
Yes,
would think that Sri Radha would be somewhat central, seeing as how she is Bhakti Devi herself.
she is Bhakti Devi for sure. For sure. And you know, sometimes she's in the background a little bit, you know, in the Krishna Balaram Leela, you know, she's with Krishna, but there are different nuances and different relationships, you know, within Krishna's pastimes, but within you know, Radha is sometimes forefront, and sometimes she's the Chit Shakti energy that is underpinning the the Leela in a hidden way.
Yeah, it's interesting how like to me this also ties in with individuation and confidence of oneself, because sometimes Sri Radha will push herself forward, knowing that only she can please Krishna at this moment, and sometimes she pushes someone else forward. So to be able to know what one has to offer to please the Lord and to be comfortable within that and to know our worth in relationship to being able to love God in a very specific way. I think that that translates into our process of individuation, even at this time of our life. Like I was listening to lectures that Swami Padmanabha gave quite a while ago on the I forget anyway it was about the gopis, and it was when Krishna again was gone, and the gopis were calling him and pleading with him to please come. And one of their arguments was, you know, you have no idea what you're missing. I know what you want, and I know that I can bring you pleasure like no one else can. You're missing out. So you should come and show yourself, because I have something that only I can give you. So to me, that was like, wow, that is radical self-worth. Being able to say to God, dude, you are missing out. You know, I know that I am what you want. And not at all in a an egoic kind of way, obviously, but just to know that we have a worth, and what we have to offer God is something very, very unique. And Sri Radha, as we develop a relationship, and as she pulls us out of all of our own obstacles that we put in the way, talk about, she complains about her eyelids and the tears. What do we put in the way of love? But she draws us out. Then that is the process of individuation, and that begins here and now.
Wow. That is really a beautiful point. And it reminded me of something. I can't remember exactly where I've heard this, but it seems they said that when Sri Radha, gets ready to go see Krishna, she's like putting on the makeup and dress and everything, although I don't know what the makeup is like over there. Uh, but when she is, I bet it is not all the artificial products like
It
here.
is crushed gemstones and
Oh, yeah, it must be really, really beautiful anyway. So it seems like when she's ready, and just before going to see him, she looks at the mirror at herself and she faints. She faints looking at her own beauty. Not because she's thinking like in an egoic way that, wow, I'm so beautiful, but she's she's looking at her beauty and thinking, wow, Krishna is going to enjoy this so much, and that's why she faints. And yeah, I mean, like this is amazing. It ties in with what Bhakti Rasa was saying about the process of individuation and the sense of self-worth. Like to have that confidence, not because not from a place of ego that we need to feel good about ourselves or whatever, but Krishna being in the center, all in a mood of pleasing Krishna, to always thinking like how can I make him more happy than I did before.
yeah.
Which is quite amazing.
Yeah, if we don't think we're something valuable and something worthy of offering, why would we offer ourselves? We wouldn't. We would hold back. We wouldn't offer ourselves if we think, oh, we're just this lowly creature, lump of stool kind of thing. If we think that why would we offer ourselves to God? Why would we offer ourselves to anyone, to anything? We wouldn't. But to see our worth in the context of devotion, in the context of God, yes, then we will want to run when when the time is right, when our presence will be most pleasing.
Srila Sridhar Maharaj speaks about self-abnegation in the sense of that I surrender to that love. And the big I is not, the big I has value because the big I is given with love. So therefore, it's not about that I'm not good enough. My self-abnegation is that I sacrifice my my being to be in union with the divine, and that is glorious, and that is beautiful. And when we look at all the qualities of Radharani, she has power and she has shyness. She has music. She pushes other people forward too. So she's creative in her service. And Maharaj speaks about the creativity of Radha in this chapter as well, and how that creativity is such an important aspect of her individuation and her service attitude, is that there's always new possibilities. And those new possibilities are bubbling up, and they have power, but they are, but also they have a spontaneity that is fiery as well. And you spoke about the fire and about the red cloth, we meet that. And so it's not passive, but there is a place for her shyness and for her reserve and for her pushing others forward and for her silence as well. And her, so it is a dance of, and that's the paradox, isn't it? The dance that she has power and, wisdom, and she has shyness and gentleness and an innocence that is beautiful and powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's if God is anything, God is paradox, even
Yeah.
even the female God. She is the embodiment of paradox. And again, I was thinking of this, and I was speaking with Sweta Dweep, that to me it's like sometimes we can often think of things as opposites, like there's a continuum, there's a linear thing where one opposite is here and one opposite is there, and then the divine somehow integrates those. But I'm really starting to see that it is not a linear, that one is found within the other. It's so contextual that that one is found within the other. So her shyness is found within her power, and her power is found within her shyness. It's not that she balances those two. She's somewhere in the middle, but both are found within the other, and are present simultaneously. And therefore, her creativity is endless and boundless because she has a cornucopia of being from which she can choose whatever is called for in the right moment. And if we ourselves are called into her service, and I had the image when you were speaking earlier, Manjuali, that I felt like, wow, maybe we could be like paint, and she's the artist, and she's gonna like take our color and mix it into this beautiful painting that she's painting, and we're going to become her part of her offering of love to God. And it was like, wow, that's beautiful.
Because she's a well-wisher and she's always drawing everybody in. She's not, that is her quality, is that
That's the nature of love.
that's the nature of love. She wants to share it. She wants everybody to have a little taste of it so that they can individuate and understand that that love is so overwhelmingly beautiful, and it embodies, and it, yeah, it's just. And I was thinking what you were saying about, the linear, and of course in the spiritual world and in the world of sound and the world of prayer, it's a multidimensional experience. It's not bound by our little minds and our little, clothesline with pegs holding all the different things. It's all interwoven and it's all moving, and it's like a river that is flowing into itself and then moving out into, and it's light, it's a whole different realm of consciousness, love, as Radharani is teaching us, and it is not bound by the material conditioning. And that actually challenges our faith, but also draws us in. Yeah. In my understanding, and and that's why, as we learn in this chapter, how Radharani is the gateway, because she is the embodiment of love by her grace and her sidelong glance and her desire to share that love and awaken all conditioned souls to that, to relationship, to a personal relationship, that yeah, it's such a blessing that we are speaking about her as teacher. Yeah. And as an archetypal embodiment of the divine feminine, which is ever moving, ever shifting, ever evolving, ever fresh, and full of new possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of, how when we are chanting the Maha Mantra, like, with, I think Srila Prabhupada explained it this way, that we request Mother Hara, who is Sri Radha, to engage us in the service of Krishna. So, yeah, I mean, it's just there, like basic, the foundation. Like we need
Absolutely.
her help.
She is, yeah, she is a gatekeeper in the sense that she has Krishna's heart, and she is ready and eager to encourage everyone. And yes, and that is the gift of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is that she appears as Mahaprabhu to taste that love. And that's, so yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I'm really
Doctor.
glad you mentioned him at this point because, I mean, we cannot, the natural conversation has to go to Mahaprabhu when we are speaking of Radha
Yeah.
and Krishna, because, we say that they're one, two souls, I mean, one soul and two bodies, but at the same time, Krishna doesn't know, what it's like to love himself. He doesn't know what that's like, and when he sees um, the length that Sri Radha will go to, and how at one in the same paradoxical moment, how she completely gives of herself, and at the same time is fuller than ever before.
Yeah.
How there is that ebb and flow simultaneous, the expansion and the emptying out. And, and he is like, I don't know that to that degree. So he must, as the knower of all things, try to experience what it is that, and that's an interesting thing too, that it's not just that he wants to know what it is she's feeling. They don't sit down and have a conversation and they share knowledge and she shares notes with him. He wants to experience it. So for God, knowledge means experiential knowledge. So he wants to experience it. So that calls forth Mahaprabhu. And then the intricacy of Mahaprabhu and the Shikshastakam and how the qualities of Sri Radha's love is actually um, displayed by Mahaprabhu for us to be able to understand what unconditional love is. How that at the end of Shikshastakam, how he's like, I don't care. I don't embrace me, don't embrace me, love me, don't love me, kick me to the street, whatever. I am yours. It's too late. I am sold out. And a really interesting part that Maharaj brings up, because even as I was reading that in this section, I was thinking, kind of sounds a little codependent. And Maharaj brings that up. How this is not codependent.
Mm.
And it is because codependency is here he says it's not codependent or dysfunctional, but we could think it is. But the codependency rises from self-centered insecurity.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I don't care what you do to me, whatever. I'm so insecure and so unsure of myself, and I have no sense of self without you that I'm going to tolerate whatever you do. That's not where she's coming from. It's just in the fullness of having given herself completely in love and having been fulfilled. There's full and fulfilled by love that she is able to give herself fully.
Maharaj says it's embodiment at the end of that, how she actually gives to the fact that she actually embodies that love. And that, so there's no separation. It's integrated, that love, because of her selfless submission to that love.
Yeah. And
Which
he
is
said
her empowerment, and that's her empowerment.
Yeah. Self-awareness also. He
And
mentioned
self-awareness, yeah.
Self-awareness. Again, Sri Radha is self-aware.
Presence.
Fully present. Yeah.
Fully presence, but with intention. She's totally dedicated, and that is her embodiment, that dedication, embodiment of the next stage of love, in the sense that she's totally absorbed in service to her beloved, who sits in her heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah, I like how Maharaj says in this section that love is the highest wisdom. I think he's quoting someone.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It was
Yeah,
quite
so I was thinking about it that, they're not specifically like trying to gain knowledge, but just, being fully present in love. Like the gopis I'm thinking of, that they just by like fully being present in love, they have all the knowledge. And yeah, I mean, I was thinking also like, how can we explain this, like expand this, as in how can we say love is the highest wisdom? That is to say, like when we experience unconditional love, like we have all the knowledge. Like how can we, like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like how can we explain that?
We just try to understand or follow Radha as a teacher, how it's, we put that on our heads, really. Her Leela and her realization and her relationship is, we can say from a distance we witness this, but how do we actually internalize it? And that is by doing our practice and by praying to her to reveal herself and to allow us into to be of service to her, because she is our teacher, and she has she is Krishna. She belongs to Krishna. So by just approaching her with humility and with a deep desire to be of service if she so allows us to be of service. And we don't go there with ego, we go there with humility. We go there with, all our vulnerability and all our stuff, but we go there with an open, kind heart and a deep desire to know that her service is our solace. Yeah. Her service is, an opportunity to dive into that ocean of unconditional love and be of service there, not just to wallow in it, but does she have something that, she wants us to do today? Do we paint toenails or do we make garlands? There's always and different people, or do we cook, or do we, or do we do the laundry, whatever. But it's whatever is necessarily needed. We show up with that desire to be on her team. Yeah, because her team is one team, really. Her team is Krishna's team. And so that's why an aspiring devotee, in my understanding, puts their head at the feet of Radha, at the head of the feet of Krishna, and say, I belong to you. Please inspire me how I can please you. Srila Prabhupada said when we used to chant our japa in the early days, please, my dear Lord, engage me in your unconditional, loving, devotional service. That was the mantra. That was behind the mantra. And it was a plea for relationship, for connection, for a deepening of that love that we have to, as bhaktas, we desire to be in service to, if it is their will. Because, we have to know that, the call will come when they desire that call to come. That's what, and she, by her kindness and glance, can take us deeper into the mystery if we have faith that she can. And that faith is fanned by putting our head at that feet of divinity, in my understanding. If that makes sense.
And I think what you were saying also, Swetadweep, and how Manjuali was responding too is, there's that song, to know him is to love, love, love him.
Yeah.
And it's like back, I don't know what, in the 50s, maybe, Manjuali.
Yeah. It's an old song.
And so knowledge and love do go together. And no one knows Krishna as well as Sri Radha.
Yeah.
So and we experience that, in our everyday life as well, that when it's the level of intimacy, the level of love that we have with different people, that will determine actually how full we know them and how full they know us. Some people might know us on a very superficial level. We're not very intimate, so they only see a very small aspect of ourselves. But the more intimate we are with each other, the more we love each other, the more we know each other. And then the more we know each other, the more we love each other, because that's the nature of relationship. And so Sri Radha knows Krishna in a very special way. So
And she knows us too.
yeah, so she can share that knowledge in a very special way. And we will know him. We will know God through our guru's eyes, because the guru knows him in a certain way. And we will.
Yeah, and then that makes a lot of sense then, because then you can really say like love is the highest wisdom, because knowing God means knowing everything, because everything is God. There is nothing outside of God. So in that sense, Sri Radha knows Krishna the most, and so like she has the highest knowledge in that sense.
Yes. The queen
Again,
of
it's
wisdom.
integrated as well. She knows, she sees his hand everywhere. She sees his, the spark of divinity, his light, his presence everywhere. And she embodies that presence in supporting us to enter into that relationship deeper.
Yeah, because I was thinking too that she's like love is the glue, that the embeddedness, what we are embedded in, and what it is that's actually embedding us is love in relationship. So that is Sri Radha. Her presence is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that God is, every atom is an embassy of God. Well, she is there, the glue around every embassy. She is the ground upon which that embassy is held. So
Yes.
she's beautifully everywhere.
And I love the way Maharaj keeps on ever evolving. It becomes such a, because to repeat it and repeat it, that it's ever moving, that it's not static, that it's bubbling up. It's got new, the nuance.
Love is on the move.
It's on the move, and it's not something that every day is a new day. Every relationship, every moment they meet, he speaks about is a new moment. And so it's ever fresh. And to our minds, I find my mind, how can it's so busy. It's always moving. When are we gonna, be able to catch up with it? And then you just think that it's like a beautiful piece of music, that a symphony where it moves, and it takes you on the journey of it. And also this relationship between Radha and Krishna, which we put on our heads actually, because we're not entered into it, but we know from a distance that it is within the fabric of all love, and it is the embodiment of all love. So how we move through that is grace. And that's the grace of the divine and the guru and each other, and that spark, which ignites us and feeds us and challenges us as well. Yeah. And Radha is, we're speaking about her as, such non-different than Krishna, but also very different in the sense that they have this relationship that is always bubbling up and always beautifully evolving.
Co-creating.
Co-creating, yes.
All
Yes.
right. Anything else rising to the surface that either of you would like to? There's something pushing forward that needs to be spoken of in this moment. If not, we can take a pause here. And
I just think we have to just show gratitude to Maharaj for bringing this to the table and helping us to really, bring Radharani as the goddess of love and wisdom to this moment in time to actually teach us that Guru is everywhere. And Radharani is the embodiment of Guru because she is unconditionally in service to the beloved, who is Krishna. And that is such an amazing, beautiful lesson, that Maharaj is teaching us here about how the presence of the divine female in relationship to the divine male is of union and of beauty and of possibility.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for those closing words, Manjuali. So appreciate your presence here. Thank you. Thank you for participating, Swetadweep, for all of your input, presence, your liveliness. I appreciate you both very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhakti Rasa, and thank you, Sweti Radhika. It's been my pleasure to share with you today.
Imagine sacred divine love taking a tangible form and engaging with both God and you. How might this interaction unfold? Envision how this love would manifest in your life, guiding and transforming you. Lose yourself in this contemplation and then rediscover yourself within this profound possibility. Closing pause. Before moving to the next section, take a moment to reflect on the insights from this chapter. Have any of your previous views on love shifted? If so, which ones and why? Consider practical ways to integrate the new perspectives and values you have gained into your life. Reflect on the potential benefits of doing so, as well as the consequences of neglecting this dynamic and transformative view of love.